we'd like to welcome to the show June Caloroso. She's a tech recruiter, career strategist, and founder of Build with June Consulting. She is a 2021 LinkedIn Talent Awards finalist and named one of JobScan's 2021 top job experts to follow on LinkedIn. And has built a strong personal brand on LinkedIn in less than a year. June has spent the last 6 years building teams as a recruiter for some of the world's biggest tech companies, from Google to Wish, all of the things. She's helped hire more than 300 people land their dream jobs and opportunity. And she's 70 forward and thinking and emotionally leaders. She's amazing. She's currently the DEI tech recruiter at Meta. Welcome to the show, June.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for having me.
No problem. I'm very excited to have you. I do not have my compadre Brendan with me, but I will try to make up for his insanity. But before we get into, we're gonna do a little role play here in a little bit. But before we do any of that, let's hear a little bit about yourself. I just read out this huge bio about you. So, like, where did this all come from? How did you get into this industry?
Oh my goodness. Actually, yeah, I've spent, long story short, prior to me joining the tech world and the recruiting world, I spent more than 15 years in working for restaurants, working for retail sales. And it was when I took this gap or break between work and school after I graduated college back in 2014. Which was actually 4 months after my firstborn was born, my son. I decided to take some time off from work because I wasn't really enjoying my role in the banking world, and I really wanted to embrace that journey of being a new mother. And took about a year and a half off from work, and I volunteered for this nonprofit called No Excuse Mom. And long story short, that kind of really exposed me to my passion for building community. It exposed me to the fundamentals of recruiting. And I actually leveraged that experience to get my first job as a recruiter back at Aerotech, which is a staffing agency, back in 2015. So recruiting was a great way to use my transferable skills and relationship building and in sales, because essentially recruiting is just like sales. You're selling the candidate's skills and expertise to your hiring managers, and then vice versa. You're selling the company's culture, value, and mission over to the candidate. So thought it was a really great way for me to pivot those transferable skills into the role of recruiting. So now I'm here.
Well, there you are. Now you're here. Now you're with us, and it's all turned out just gravy.
Yes.
So that's a really good transition into our topic this week. So we've talked to a lot of career coaches. We've talked to a lot of people from the industry, recruiters, all these people, and we talk about strategies and techniques in order to get jobs and things like that. But we really wanted to focus this season about how do we implement this? How do we give people physical examples to say, here, this is what our career coaches have told us. This is how they want. This is how they go, and we'll make this dream come true. So we're gonna do a little role playing right here, and we've already talked this prior to this, but you talked about transferable skills. We talk a lot about people in transitioning from one industry to another in this scenario. So what we're gonna do is a little coaching session. So you're gonna be my coach, which is great.
Love it.
So
this is bring me back to my drama roots too. So I'm gonna put my coaching hat on, get it together.
Get it together. Be the dream. Be the dream. So this is the role. We put this all together prior to words. I'm gonna be. Let's say I was a chef at a restaurant. I was there working for 10 years. I have some money saved up, and so I've decided, hey, I don't like this anymore for one reason or another. I want to go into sales, and let's just say I reach out to you. I want to go into sales, like a sales associate or sales manager for a tech firm. And I reach out to you because I've seen you on this show or other shows. And I say, hey, I'd really love you to be my career coach. So let's go through what the process of that looks like.
Yes, absolutely. So are we going to actually act this out, or am I going to walk? Okay, awesome.
I'm the guy. Go ahead.
Great. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for setting some time with me. I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about your goals. I see that you are currently working as a chef, as a head chef at a restaurant, but looking to make a pivot into sales. So we'd love to hear a little bit more about what inspired you to make this decision in your career.
Yeah, well, thanks for meeting me. So it's weird, right? Like I went to college for a completely different thing and then got out of college and got in the service industry and just started working in kitchens and built my way up from there, kind of just like fell into the industry, started doing it full time, and I enjoyed the work and and everything. But like after a while, I just kind of looked around and looked at my friends, and I work on the weekends. I always work on the weekends. I'm always like away from everybody else. And I've always had like a passion. Like I went into be a chef in the service industry to help people, to serve people, to make people happy. And so like I went to school to be a like a partial sales thing. I was like in business school for like a little. I was thinking about getting my MBA. So I always thought that was like a very exciting place to be. And I'm very like motivated and action packed. So I always thought sales was like a big thing. Like you gotta move and shake. And so that's kind of like where I am right now. I'm not. I think I'm done with this like part of my life, and I want to kind of move to another phase where I'm more like still trying to use similar skills that I have, like moving and shaking, but like in another area.
Got it. Awesome. Yeah. So it sounds like from what I'm hearing from you, I mean, you love the fast paced environment in your role right now. You love
Mm-hmm.
talking to people, helping people. I mean, as a chef, you're making people happy because you're providing a great meal, right? So
Hopefully.
hopefully. Well, let me ask you this before we kind of get into the nitty gritty, because it sounds like sales is something that you really want to pivot into. So now you've been in. I'm trying to kind of understand if we could, leverage some of your skills that you're using in the restaurant. Prior
Mm-hmm.
to you being a chef, were there any roles that you were working in that embodies that sales skills, as far as talking to people,
Yeah.
upselling menu items with your customers? Maybe you had some opportunity to work with different vendors, and I say this because in the sales role, you may be talking to different people that have different needs. You may be actually also talking to different suppliers that are actually providing the products that you're selling to your customers.
Mm-hmm.
So in your experience in like the restaurant industry, tell me about the different roles that you've worked in prior to you being a chef.
Yeah, so I had very limited roles before this. I did work in an office for a time, and I was like an administrative assistant for a little while. And where I did order we did bulk orders for our office, and I was in charge of that. So dealing with making the orders and dealing with vendors and getting the best price. That has happened in the past. It's been a little while. Like I haven't done it in a really long time. I also worked. I've also like volunteered sometimes at other places. Like I used to volunteer at food kitchens, and I used to help them with their orders so they could get I would hook them up with some of the suppliers that we use in some of
Mm.
for our restaurant, and help them like get excess materials so they wouldn't cost so much. So like that's some things I have. And kind of pointing to what you were saying before, I have worked with our suppliers to buy our produce for our restaurant. So I do work with them on a regular basis and do like bulk orders. I make sure that I what's it called? I disperse and like see if I'm getting the best price. So every now and again,
That's great.
I go into like the internet to see if there's any other options available. So yeah, that's kind of like where I am right
Ooh.
now.
Okay, I'm actually getting a lot of ideas in my head right now as far
Okay.
as how we could jumpstart your career in sales. You mentioned suppliers. You mentioned that you're very strategic to trying to get the best price, right, for
Hmm. Yeah.
produce. Okay, let me ask you this: other than remind me again with sales, like, is there particular positions that you're really interested in exploring as you're thinking of making this huge shift in your career?
I
Have
mean,
you had some time to review job descriptions online on LinkedIn?
a little bit. I know there's like sales associates and sales managers. I've been like looking those. I've been dismayed because it's a lot of technical stuff that
Mm-hmm.
I don't seem to have like the ability or skills for, or I guess not the ability, but like just I don't have the past experience in it. I've been looking up those, but I have to tell you, this is a little more of me just trying to see if I can make this move because I'm like really unsatisfied with my work right now, so I haven't like put in the full effort to get to make this happen.
Got
So
it.
that's
Okay,
what I
perfect.
thought I reach out to you too.
Got it. Okay, that makes
So
sense. Well, I do want to tell you this. Me coming from working I've worked maybe over 5 years in restaurants from like Olive Garden to Texas Roadhouse, and there's a
right.
lot of great foundational skills that you are gaining from that experience, from customer service, from multitasking, from being resourceful. And when you're kind of like speaking to me about your experience as an administrative assistant, your experience as a volunteer, you also may have this experience too working at your restaurant now when you're thinking about working with different suppliers for your ingredients for your restaurant, right? So I think for you, because this is just kind of my idea of as far as where we can start, is leveraging your negotiation experience, your sourcing experience when it comes to sourcing for the best suppliers into a business development representative position. Have you heard of this position before?
No, I've never heard of it. No.
Oh, okay. So what's great about this position? It's a great position, and I've actually hired these positions before in the past, where you could leverage those transferable skills. And technically, what you're actually doing is a sales position where you're looking online and you're researching different, say, merchants. Say if you want to work in, it seems like you want to get into tech. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that your expertise is in tech, and I just see that as like the new that's just new wave. You know, we're using technology in the restaurant right now with online orders and all of these things, and I just feel like that's probably the best way for me to go because it just seems like the next wave in the field that's the most booming from what I can see a lot online too, from where a lot of the positions are coming from.
Yeah, okay. It's definitely booming, and especially too with the working world changing as far as all these remote positions
Right.
and everyone working from home. There's so much opportunity to leverage your experience in the food industry for companies like in the gig economy, like when you think of like DoorDash or Instacart, right?
Yeah.
Or these e-commerce companies. So I think this BDR, we call them BDR, Business Development Representative, is a great starting point for you, especially if you're looking to pivot into sales, leveraging your sourcing, your communication, your vendor management, stakeholder skills, because essentially what you're doing is you're researching different. So, say if you want to work for like Amazon or Instacart or any of these e-commerce platforms, what you do is you research different suppliers either online, and you reach out to them, kind of selling them the benefits of having their products sold on our apps. And then you're building these relationships online. You're setting up Zoom meetings, kind of telling them, why it would be beneficial for their product to be sold on this e-commerce platform, right?
Hmm.
But what that's doing, it's actually kind of using your skill as someone being in the food industry as far as how you communicate to suppliers, right? Um, and then selling the benefits, and you're selling. So it's kind of like a mix between being a buyer and salesperson at the same time.
Okay.
What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, it sounds really interesting. It's weird because I don't understand this job. Like, I wish I could like talk to somebody about it. Essentially, is like
Yeah.
because that's what would be my question is because I don't, I've been in the service industry so long. I don't know what like the outside world looks like, and
Right.
so I'm a I'm a little terrified of this transition, and I'm trying to figure out like how this is all going to happen. And but that does sound right up my alley, though. That does sound like something I would be interested in. Yeah.
Okay. That's great. So this is what I usually do with some of my clients too. If they're looking to pivot into a new industry, a new role, is getting an idea of what roles they are interested in.
Hmm.
And since this is aligned to what you're looking for, the next step that I would suggest to you is, like you, and thank you so much for sharing that with me, as far as like the feeling of feeling a little bit nervous, pivoting into this whole new world that you know nothing about. So what I recommend doing, before you start building, like usually I like to work with my clients, getting some career clarity and understanding, where you want to start in your career, in this new career path. Since you're kind of in the discovery phase right now, where you're kind of discovering different roles in the sales world, what I recommend is actually reaching out to people in your network on LinkedIn. For example, the restaurant that you're working in right now, it sounds like it's a large
Yeah, we have
restaurant.
like a staff of like 70 or 80 people. Yeah.
Right, but is it franchise, or is it like a nationwide restaurant chain, or
No, well, it's like a local chain.
it's a
Like a
local chain?
local
Okay.
chain, yeah.
But you're a chef, right? And then you
Yeah.
also mentioned that you've worked as an administrative assistant too.
Yeah, a long time ago. I
Long time ago.
yeah, that I used to work as an administrative assistant like when I was in college and stuff like that, so it's been a while.
Got it.
So,
Okay. And then where
yeah.
did you graduate from?
Well, I graduated from Florida Atlantic University.
Okay, Florida Atlantic University. So I have some
FAU.
FAU. Shout out to FAU alumni.
The Owls, baby, the Owls.
Woo woo. I would say woo woo. Okay, so to kind of calm the nerves down, as far as making this huge shift in your career, and to
Mm-hmm.
get some career advice, what I recommend is tapping in to some of the college alumni that have maybe worked in the food industry, that have made that pivot into sales.
Mm-hmm.
Also reaching out to people on LinkedIn that work in like the retail hospitality industry. And you could actually do this and search anyone on LinkedIn by looking at their past history, work experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Setting informative chats, trying to gain some advice on, what it was like for them to kind of pivot into this new world of sales. That way, when you're having these conversations, as far as like asking them, any advice for me that's like looking to pivot into sales, is there something that you would have done differently when you started?
Mm.
Because when you're getting those insights, you're kind of getting more clarity and understanding, like if this is going to be the right path for you. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, it's so weird because then I would be worried about like how do I become you, like, so it's good to have that advice of, hey, what would you have done differently, or what would your career path? So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And people like in those positions where they've made that pivot, I know sometimes people could be a little bit intimidated as far as reaching out and asking for care advice, but everyone's always trying to, pay it forward. And like for me,
Mm,
like I'm always trying to help myself 20 years ago, because I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do with my
right,
life, right?
right.
But I think that's the best way too. And then and it sounds like you're a little bit concerned too with your skills, like your technical skills.
Well, I'm concerned with skills. I'm concerned with money. There's like I don't know how much of a lifestyle change this is going to cause, because I'm pivoting into a new. I want to pivot into a new field, and this will obviously, well, from what I can understand online, will be a decrease in salary, and so I'm trying to see if that will, like, if that's going to deter me. But yeah, that's those are like kind of my concerns at this point.
Got it. And then are you looking to make this change? You mentioned that you saved some money on the
Mm-hmm.
side. Are
Yeah.
you looking to make this shift and like quit your job right now, or like are you comfortable doing that, or do you want to just kind of proactively start your job search, start putting feelers out there while working at the restaurant?
I think it's I think it's more like proactively doing this right now, and then
Mm-hmm.
making a decision a little bit down the line of, hey, I'm going to go all in and just
Yes.
like quit my job and try to do this, or even like commit to doing this job search full time. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say too, like you should definitely give yourself a timeline. After having these informative chats, exploratory chats with people that are in the sales, role, then we could start, building like your personal branding around your resume and your LinkedIn profile, right?
Mhm.
Trying to showcase those transferable skills that you have in the restaurant industry, and start marketing yourself on LinkedIn as a sales professional, right? People always ask me too, even though like if I lack these skills in sales, should I be marketing myself? as a
Right.
sales professional? Yes, you are. I mean, technically,
Yeah.
you're. I mean, right? So, I would start like putting those feelers out, having those conversations to gain some career clarity, and then start connecting with your alumni from college. Start networking with people that are in sales. And then also narrow down the companies that you really want to apply to and have interest in. Have you thought about different companies like in the tech world or any?
Nah, not really. I'm just, in my mind, I was just like casting a wide net and see who would take me. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Have
see
you
who could
got?
catch.
Have you started applying at all?
I have not. This is like, yeah, this is kind of the dream stage. I
Okay,
just is
we're
like,
dreaming.
I'm dreaming and hopefully I don't wake up. That's kind of my attitude going into this. So, yeah.
Okay. So how does that sound to you as far as like it sounds like we're kind of like in the beginning phase as far as getting some career clarity, understanding what roles in the sales role is going to be aligned with your background. And then having those conversations with people, sales professionals. And then if you're worried about those technical skills as far as software skills, you could definitely look up different courses online that you could take for free. Like I know that
Mm-hmm.
Google has a ton of free courses to get certifications in different like softwares, or there's actually courses on there that gives you, like, for example, if you are looking to get into project management, there's different courses on Google where it tells you a little bit more about the day to day of what a project manager does. There's
Mm-hmm.
probably some courses on there too that kind of gives you more of an overview of what it's like to work in a sales position, right? So
Yeah.
there's all of these great resources out there for you to do really like a deep dive to understand if you need to level up your skills.
Fantastic. This all sounds great. I can't wait to get started.
Hey, I'm
Yeah.
here to support you, Daniel.
All right. And scene.
And see,
But that's great. Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. I am so happy about like the scenario we just produced because I feel as though this is something that's very common within people who are trying to make transitions in life just generally. Like, do
no,
you find like you have these kind of conversations all the time?
all the time. I also, yeah, all the time. And it's hard. Like people know they want to pivot into something different, right? But they don't know where to
Right.
start,
Right.
right? And sometimes they don't understand that they could leverage their current experience and then just fill in those gaps of what they're lacking in specific skills,
Mm-hmm.
by really
Yeah.
understanding, right? And then also to like the power of like networking and LinkedIn, people don't know about too much, like people just look at LinkedIn as a way just to apply for jobs. Yes, it is, but it's a great way for you to expand your network and like set up those exploratory chats where you could get like solid career advice from people that have made that successful pivot, right? So I think another thing that I usually do with my clients too is there's this Japanese concept called the Ikigai Method. Have you heard of
Mm-hmm.
this?
No, I have not.
It's a great method and framework when you're trying to figure out, what career path that you want to take, right? By you leveraging your current skills, the current skills and experience that you have under your belt. So the Ikigai Method, which means it's a Japanese meaning of the meaning of being, the reason why you're getting up from bed every
Right.
morning, right? And this is actually what I did when I was laid off back in April. I can't believe we're approaching 2 years of this pandemic.
Me neither.
It's wild.
Yeah.
But when I knew I couldn't go back to work right away because I wanted to help my kids with virtual learning,
Yeah.
I actually used this kind of framework. So the Ikigai Method is basically 4 questions that you need to ask yourself. Um, does your current experience or the skills that you want to use in this new position, does it make you happy? Can you be paid for it? Are you passionate about this? Is it going to help? Is it going to help people? Right.
Right.
So if you ask these 4 questions to yourself, those are great qualifying questions when you're looking at different job descriptions and
Mm-hmm.
positions and industries that you want to pivot into. Yeah.
Those are great questions to ask yourself. And I wanted to ask you, like, as we're coming to our time, ending our time here, is like, what are some red flags? Like, let's say we are having that conversation, and I was wondering what kind of red flags, if you would hear them from that person, to say, okay, let's like slow your roll. Did you just like have a dream about this last night and now you're like reaching out to me to have it? Or are you actually serious about this? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what
Yeah.
are some things to disseminate that like, oh, this might just be a passing fancy?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, the one thing that I didn't dig into when I was asking you, tech, why
Mm-hmm.
tech? It sound like from you as the client, job seeker, you're like, oh, what's the booming thing right now? I
Right.
need to hop on this train. But what I should have done is like, why? Like, why do you want to be in it? You want to make
Right.
sure it's a good fit for you, right?
Right.
And I do see a lot of that from clients. Who are like, I just want to join tech because it's going to pay me the most money in the industry. But the biggest red flag is if people are just wanting something because everyone wants it, right?
Mm.
I want to make sure that it's something that's going to make you happy, right?
Right.
And something that you've been actually really contemplating about. Like if it's an overnight thing where you're like, you know what, I'm just going to make this shift right now because I want to, because I hate my job. I'm going to quit.
Right.
And that's what I was trying to ask you too. Like in this scenario, like, are you looking to quit? Or because sometimes I always try to tell clients, give yourself a timeline. Like if you are ready to throw the towel, I think it's always, I don't know, I think it's always easier to look for a job when you
When
are in
you
a
have a
job.
job.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because it takes that pressure off, right?
Right.
So those are some, because I worked with clients like, June, I just can't do it, but I got to pay my bills and da 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 da. So we kind of meet in the middle and say, okay, why don't we just go ahead and set yourself a timeline, and then if we don't get you hired by this date, then if you can't handle the situation that you're in right now, then you got to do what's best for you, but be mindful that it's gonna put some pressure on you as far as with bills and everything. So
Right.
I don't know if I answered your question, but
No, you do. I mean, I think
yeah,
I was trying to like go between those spaces too, because I think
yeah,
that's perfectly reasonable to say you might want to slow your roll and not quit your job right
right,
now. But
exactly,
if you go forward in this process and then you think I need to be 100% committed and by doing that I need to quit my job, then I can see that that's like a rational thing to do.
right,
So,
yeah,
right. No, I think
yeah,
that makes perfect sense. I think yeah, and I'm interested to learn more of these because that is like there are obviously passing fancies and things we think about, but obviously there are a lot of people who are very concentrated on like making sure that they can pivot from one job to another, and it's hard. What are the things? What are some during this process? Let's say, and let's stick with like right now. We're kind of in the exploratory phase. What
mm-hmm.
are some of the questions that you think people should be asking themselves during this time to make sure they're staying on track?
Ooh, got it. Okay, got it. Yeah. Um, what are some questions that people could ask themselves? Yeah, I always say like you want to track your track all of your activity and progress, right? So say if like you know that you want to make this pivot, you've decided I'm going to get into sales from restaurants. Okay, 1 month, I'm just going to go ahead and network with people
Mm-hmm.
and try to get some clarity and see um, if this is what I want to do, just to kind of confirm. Maybe just even 2 weeks, right? You need to set a plan in place to track your progress. Maybe 2 weeks you're just networking and having exploratory chats. And then you finally decide, okay, I'm going to make this pivot. Okay, now I'm going to work with June, my career coach, right? We're going to strategize together and really craft the resume that's going to really highlight my transferable skills in sales from my restaurant experience, right? Okay, now that
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of polished my resume, I'm going to go ahead and narrow down the top 3 to 5 positions that I want to apply to. I think it's very important for job seekers to have a concrete plan in place and have an idea of the roles they want to apply to instead of blindly applying, because you're going to be more strategic with your time. Maybe you're going to spend 2 weeks just only applying for SDR positions, account executive positions, right? Trying to
Mm-hmm.
network with people that are in those positions to hopefully get employee referrals. And then another 2 weeks focusing on another company. It's really important to do that step by step. And yes, there may be some more work on the front end, but it's going to be worth it, because you're going to have a tailored resume, an optimized LinkedIn profile. You're going to, put your networking shoes on, put some feelers out there, and hopefully have people refer you to these companies. Because I work in the tech world. There is a little bit more visibility when people are referred in, because they get that extra vouch approval, right, from their employee, right?
Right.
So it's really important to take that step and really have like a schedule in place, where one day like you're doing research, Tuesday you're doing your resume, Wednesday you're networking. It's really beneficial too if you're working full time to have that schedule in place.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are some great tips. And I guess we could talk about this forever, but our time is limited. Just as a last thing, we always like to give our guests like some room to tell us about themselves. Where can we find you? If we would like to give your advice, tell us all the things.
Yeah, thank you. I'll tell you all the things really shortly, because I know we're time. You can find me on LinkedIn, June Caloroso. I'm also launching a coaching community called Career Hustle and Flow.
Ooh.
Career Hustle and Flow for all the career hustlers out there. It's careerhustleandflow.com. It's a coaching community where you're going to have access to my LinkedIn course, access to my bi-weekly workshops and lives. And you can also find me on buildwithjune.com and then TikTok at buildwithjune11 for daily funny career tips.
Well, great. We'll have to have you back on again, but it's been lovely talking with you, June.
Thank you so much, Daniel.
All right.